against Michigan, you guys. That was a
You are an
that was a
Ohioan
tearjerker there.
in
What
your
about
heart,
34
yes.
seconds that interception, just like oh. So yeah, there we go. Um more folks to come in. There's so this I feel like doorbells are ringing, um carols are happening, blah blah blah. Hey, new syllable type today. Actually, a couple of new ones. I get to talk to you about the vowel team syllable type today. Only about an hour ago, we sent out notes for this presentation. So sorry, completely forgot about it until literally an hour ago. So just zip those to you all. If you had a chance to print them, you can take some notes on them. If you want to take half a second, if you got a printer handy, you may want to do that. It even says untitled presentation because that's like, oh shoot, I got to get those out. So realize that's available to you if you want to take some notes on it. So our objectives with my, I don't know, 40-ish minutes today, we're going to talk about the mechanics of vowel sounds. You all have gotten deep enough into this practicum where we want to give you a little more in-depth information about why a vowel is a vowel and some really interesting things with the mechanics of it, the articulatory gestures that are occurring when you make a vowel. We're also going to do a very quick review of the syllable types, and then we'll be talking about two vowel digraphs today. The first two you will be discussing with your practicum student, and it's double E and also double O. Introductions for reading and also implications in your encoding section, PG mapping, spelling, dictation. All right. Some of you may have seen something similar to this. Um, not and what it is it's the single vowel sounds and the mechanics that occur with the placement of your tongue and how closed or open your jaw is. And it's a pretty natural progression. There are a couple of sounds that people will argue may come before another sound, etc. But primarily this is pretty good this is a pretty good order here. We know that a vowel is different than a consonant because the air is not obstructed by your lips, your teeth, or your tongue. That's one thing that makes a vowel sound. The other is your vocal cords are always turned on. It's always a voiced sound when you are making a vowel sound. You all know a vowel sound equals a syllable. And so when you make a vowel sound, your chin actually drops, sometimes more than others, which we'll be discussing in a second. Or, if you do your whale talk, your mouth wants to open because that airway, again, is unobstructed. And that's what causes a syllable to occur, a vowel sound. Now, that vowel sound may be a single vowel, like an E, or an A by itself, or it could be a vowel digraph, couldn't it? So there are different graphemes representing those sounds. Sometimes it's a single letter grapheme, sometimes it's two letter grapheme, sometimes it's three letter grapheme, but it's that single sound that we're talking about. So if let's just take a quick peek here. We've got E in the upper left over here, like the word beat. Now I borrowed this actually from the Colorado Department of Education. So the words aren't all identical to ours, but what we're looking at are the sounds. So E, I, A, I, ah. Are you noticing? Actually, would you guys make these sounds with me? Notice what's happening with your jaw as you make these sounds. E, I, A, I, ah, ah, oh, ooh, you. Oh, interesting. Okay. So your tongue and your jaw placement plays a huge part in the sound that occurs. So I have this profile here. This pink thing's supposed to be the tongue. Now, when we make the sound E, that's like our biggest smile. E, and your tongue is at the front of your mouth. In fact, I could actually hold my tongue E when I make this sound. E, my jaw is not terribly dropped. E, because again, I'm in that smile, and my tongue is at the front of my mouth. As I move through this vowel circle, you will notice your tongue moves to the back of your mouth. Your jaw will open until we get to that ah, which is our biggest vowel sound as far as the shape of our mouth and our jaw being the most open. Ah. My tongue is back. Like if I were try this, I'm sure you're all, if you have a clean hand, just try this, okay? Just grab your tongue and let's go from E to ah and just see what happens. E, eh, a, eh. Okay, I have no longer have a hold of my tongue. Ah, I, ah. My tongue is definitely hanging out back there. Okay, and then as I move up to the right side, to the U, I can feel my tongue touching my molars. U. My chin at ah was its most open. And then as I move up the right side, ah, ah, oh, ooh. Look how small and round my mouth is now. Ooh, you. What's crazy is I'm getting lines that look like smokers' lines because of spending so much time in this profession. You and
We
ooh.
know that you're a smoker, Jen.
I know 3 packs a day. I'm trying to cut back to 2.5. So a few helpful tips and tricks for you to remember. And we're not this is like depth of knowledge. We're not expecting you to do this with your students, but if you want to share a teeny bit of information, hey, that E, that's our biggest smile. That's why the photographer says, say cheese, because that gives us our biggest smile. That's why the doctor says, say ah, because that opens our mouth the very most when he wants to look in our throat. And then we've got our most round sound, that ooh and that you, as we've moved up that sound circle. Any questions? I think it's really interesting. And when you do, you're welcome to put your hand on your throat to feel that vibration in your vocal cords. So just a very quick check in then. What makes a vowel a vowel? There are two primary components that have to be in place that make a vowel a vowel. Would you type in the chat, please? And Kara, I will let you go ahead and see. Or actually, wait, I do have access to chat.
Yep, I can monitor it. Sure thing. Let's see.
Yeah, and I've actually got it open too.
Unobstructed air and voice.
Beautiful, Deb. That's correct. Those are the two things. Number
blocked
one, sound is not blocked, which means the air is unobstructed. And number two, it is voiced. Correct.
That sounds like a really great question that might get asked on like a follow-up assignment or quiz that might happen after this.
Which it really does.
Saying.
Yeah. You know what? That is general information that people in this field need to know. What makes a vowel a vowel? Now, a consonant may be voiced, like d. That's voiced. But d, my tongue is in the way. It's obstructing the air. Consonants might be unvoiced and blocked, like the sound that the F makes. Blocked by my teeth, my vocal cords are off. Well, here is 6-syllable type. What have we done so far? Well, we've talked about short vowel sounds, closed syllables. We've talked about open syllables a little bit. Last time we talked about consonant LE, that final stable syllable. Kristen is going to talk about vowel consonant E. And coming in 2024, we'll discuss vowel R. And today, then, well, oh, I just messed it up. I'll be talking about vowel teams. And yeah, go team. You can see I've been a little sassy these last several days. Vowel teams. That's when we have typically two letters, two vowels that are going to make one sound. E and O are our first. Those are actually called digraphs, two letters coming together to make one sound. Some of those are actually diphthong sounds, though. O-U, ow. That's when two vowel sounds gliding. We'll get into that more later. O-I, O-Y, oi, also two vowel sounds that glide. So that's a diphthong versus a digraph. But E-E-O-O-A-I-O-Y, those are the ones that will be coming up in order for you all. So go team, right? So funny. All right, the first digraph we're going to talk about is double E. This is our first vowel team. You will be sharing the new keyword and sound card tree E. Notice it's circled. We will circle for sound. And just to remind you, E, that's our biggest smile. It's at the very top left of our sound circle. So again, E is the first vowel digraph to introduce vowel teams. You can see double E in every position of a word. Eel would be initial, feed, medial, tree, final position. So it's pretty straightforward when you're doing the reading portion of the lesson. And I'm actually not going to go over the lesson with you because you really can follow it well. I just wanted you to make sure that you understood some primary pieces and some of the emphasis as we get into this first vowel team. PG mapping is interesting. So this is the first time that you are going to have the sound E for PG mapping. Even though you had introduced, it was just like a concept discovery of the open syllable when you did the pronouns he, she, me, we. We were not adding that to PG mapping yet. This is the first time E is being introduced for PG mapping. Now, as I just showed you, E can happen in any, the double E happens in any position. So that may seem a little weird. Double E, final, double E, that's what the children write, and that's what you're going to teach them to say. The verbal response for E is double E, final, double E. Weird. Okay, so why double E, final, double E? Will you respond to that? Why do you think that we're doing that? Because like with SH, when you talk shh, we don't say SH, final SH, do we? So why are we trying to torture you? Okay, Angie says it can happen in any position. That is key, but that's not the full reason. Thanks, Angie, for hopping in there. This is a huge emphasis and very important for you to understand. Nobody else. Okay, that's okay. Let's see. Won't sound like E if not doubled at the end. That's interesting. Most words with E sound and initial don't start with double E, maybe. Interesting, Gavin. Thank you. Pauline says double E sounds the same in both positions. True, it does sound the same in any position, double E. Okay, thank you for participating. Those are all really good. Oh, here comes some more. Deb says because a single E at the end also makes E. Deb is starting to get closer. Maybe because E makes the E sound, so you want to identify the long E by putting double E. Ashley is also on the right track. Caroline says double E for second syllable or multiple syllable words. All right, thanks, guys. No one quite hit the mark, but here is the answer. Okay, I've got an animation that's going to pop up with the answer. Does looking at this help you to answer the question? Why, when you introduce that double E, do we want you to Make sure the kids know it's both initial and medial and also final position. Look at this. This will give you your clue. Go ahead and put it in the chat when you break the code. And I bet Santa's going to bring you something extra for trying so hard and for getting it right. I got crickets in the chat. Let me ask you this. When we do PG mapping, will we do every single grapheme that makes the sound E? Okay, Sarah, on the right track to help them start to understand which one is to be used when they're spelling. Mm-hmm. I know IE makes the sound E, like thief. I know EI makes the sound E, like ceiling. I know EA makes the sound E, like easel. Why don't I see those graphemes there? Very good. Very good. Now we're getting it. There are many ways that E is represented. There's a lot of different graphemes. What do we want in PG mapping? The defaults, the most frequent, the most common. Do you see there's a bunch of ways that we spell the sound E that are the most common ways? And it all has to do with vowel types and number of syllables in some situations. Yeah, okay. So there are multiple default graphemes for E in all positions. Notice I said default graphemes. So here are your defaults. These are all the most common. So double E, final double E happens in one syllable base words in any position. That's the most common spelling when you hear a one syllable base word in any position. It's going to be spelled double E. Now, I know EA happens a lot in many of these words, but not in every position. EA happens primarily in the medial position, whereas double E happens in any position. And so that's why it's our default for one syllable base word. Now, E consonant E, like athlete. What do you think are the implications for that? As in number of syllables, sound, position? How many syllables will we typically see when we spell with E consonant E? How many syllables will we see typically when we spell with E consonant E? Can you, I'm getting one, two, or three. Can you think of, okay. So if I give you a few more words, let's see if everybody can get the right answer. Compete, stampede, impede. Typically, we're gonna have two syllables. So because it's the first E, like look at athlete, see how that E that's actually making the sound is in the medial position? That's why if you look down right here, that when you introduce E consonant E, it's going to come on the left side of the line because technically that's a medial sound. Because an athlete, the T is the final sound. Okay. When we have just an E, like in the word fever, that's going to be our official introduction of open syllables, like official. And then you can see in this third one, that's when we'll bring in the E in fever as part of our response for PG mapping. And then we do have another way we spell E in the final position, don't we? In the word candy. That's happening in two syllable base word. And actually fever, primarily when we have an open syllable, that happens in at least a two syllable base word also. Candy, that E that we hear is in an unstressed or unaccented syllable, which primarily happens in at least two syllable words. And that's why the Y is added in the final position. So E is one of our most interesting sounds for PG mapping and for spelling implications. You can see once you've taught all of these new lessons, the response is going to be, seems kind of weird, but it is double E, comma, E consonant E, comma, E, final, double E, comma, Y. But for now, when you teach double E, here's your response, isn't it? Double E, final, double E. And in this link, you have everything you need as you teach the various sounds, and that's why we make sure that you are marking these every time that you teach a new concept. So here's E. So double E is the grapheme for spelling. Yes, it's a default. So we have double E, final double E. You will see the key word associated with it. And in column H, this is going to be the written response that your child writes for PG mapping. And this is what they will be saying. Double E, final double E. Does that make sense to everybody? Notice it's green, it's foundational level. When you get to level 1, that's our blue color coding. That's when you'll teach the E consonant E and the E in the open syllable like fever. And that's when you'll be adding these additional responses, and they're adding this additional verbiage. They're adding what they write and they're adding what they say.
Jen, I think this is a perfect and just beautiful example of how it's so important for the teacher to understand the bigger picture and understand
Yes.
knowing about what is coming. Okay, it might seem weird that we're going to say double E, final double E now, but it's really, thank God we did that now, because later, if we didn't do it now, we'd have to say, oh yeah, okay, now that you know another one, you're going to have to start putting double E, comma, E consonant E, final double E. Like it's helping the child so that when we grow their knowledge, they're already doing the thing. Just like when we ask, is the word simple or complex? Even if they don't know what complex means yet, they're going to know what it means. And later they're going to need to know which one is which and why, right? So this is just a really great example, and how you as a teacher need to have the big picture understanding, and that will help you to figure out why we do what we do along the way.
Great, thanks for interjecting. Yep, you're absolutely right. And I know you all are just learning this, and what the beauty of it is, we're supporting you as much as we can. The more practice and experience that you have with it, the more these things are going to make sense. So please just trust us and follow us, even if some of this isn't completely clear to you. But yes, there there's very much a reason behind every single thing that we do, and that we share with you and that we want you to do. So the sound E is probably the most difficult sound as far as the PG mapping and the default spellings. So when you can wrap your brain around this, you're in really, really great shape. Okay. Now, let's talk about double O. This is going to be the second vowel digraph or vowel team grapheme, and also phonemes that you teach, because double O makes two distinct sounds. Our keywords are book and moon. Those are two different sounds. Let's tap out the sounds in book. B. Oh, it's like you're being punched in the stomach. Technically, that's a short vowel sound. B. Oh, you won't be marking it with a breve or a breve or however you choose to say it, but that is a short vowel sound. Moon, long vowel sound. Have you ever thought about this before, that our short vowel sounds actually are short? They're a little bit clipped. Oh, our long vowel sounds are a little more continuant. They're held just a little bit longer. A, ooh, versus ah, oh, yeah. So there's actually a reason it's called a short vowel sound versus a long vowel sound. It has to also do with how long you hold the sound. Okay, it's one grapheme, two phonemes, right? Ooh. Because it's short, book, we're going to do the lowercase oo. moon, ooh, technically a long sound. We'll do the uppercase O to distinguish between those two sounds. Now you've just seen the vowel circle. Here is the second half of the vowel circle. Historically, we've had some interesting things happening with vowels over the centuries, in fact. There was a great vowel shift that occurred, oh goodness sake, 1500s, 1600s, I believe. And you had, what happened was sounds within the British Isles changed in some areas. In England, it changed. Whereas in Scotland and Ireland, well, Scotland for sure, there was not a shift. So sometimes our sounds that we make that now say like an A sound um, will still, excuse me, like an E sound will be an A sound in Scotland. So in Scotland, the pronunciation of their sounds is a little bit more Middle English. But then we had this shift in vowel sounds that occurred within this vowel anchor. The same thing is happening on a much smaller scale today. And it's with the sounds oo and you. And I'm going to chat with you about that in just a minute. Whoop, let's see. Yeah, do I want to talk about it here? Can't remember. Yeah, I'll talk about it here. Okay, no, let me go back. Because these, we've got, see how our mouth is getting really round and small. Ooh, like moon, and you, like cute, or our keyword is actually cube. That ooh and you are really close mechanically, aren't they? Ooh, you, ooh, you. Will you make those sounds for just a second? Ooh, you, ooh, you. Very, very little difference in the placement of your tongue and in the movement with the jaw and the placement of the jaw. Because those two sounds are so closely intertwined, what's happening is sometimes our OO makes the oo sound, but sometimes it makes more of a U sound. And a lot of it depends on dialect. Some of it depends on letters that are adjacent to it. And sometimes it even depends on the syllable type. Like a U consonant E often makes more of an oo sound than a U sound. So that's something to be really aware of is how close those two sounds are. The fact that they're right next to each other on that sound circle. And also that over time, we're just getting a little fuzzy with those two sounds. They're definitely intertwined, and we're having they're kind of going back and forth as far as which sound it will make, really just again depending on dialect, even syllable type, and letters that are adjacent to it. However, even if you're maybe hearing more of a U, let's make sure you understand what's happening with the PG mapping and what you are going to be teaching your student. So here's our ooh, oh, excuse me, lowercase for this is like book. Okay, here's the sound the grapheme is double O. Spelling is double O. Our keyword is book. You can see the student will write double O when you make the sound and they will say double O as they're following that script. First, when you say and the student says and then you say, you know, what spells and they say double O. When they've said it correctly, then pencil to paper, and they may write a name. And notice write and name. Some observations I saw last week, you'd say write name, and the kid would not name. So make sure if you're asking them to do something, they're actually doing it. So we want them to say double O as they're also writing. All right. Now notice a U, like in the word bush, b, it can also make that sound, but it's not going to be a spelling default. Also notice this is blue. You're not going to be teaching this. This is a level 1. You're not going to be teaching this before you teach OO. That's going to happen much earlier, much sooner. The book, the double O spelling for that. We very purposely had you introduce the default spellings before we're having you do those that are not default spellings. Ooh, okay, here we are with moon, ooh. So you'll say ooh, and the child says ooh. And then what spells ooh? Double O. I said it correctly. Name and write, or write and name, double O. Now notice you can also make the sound ooh, like tulip. That rose color, that raspberry color, that's advanced. It's going to be it would be a long time before you introduced you, the grapheme, making the sound ooh. So our only default for the sound ooh is double O. Now we talked about like you, it kind of sounds like you, kind of sounds like ooh. Notice U consonant E is not even a default there for the sound ooh. When they read, yeah, they might hear that, but we're not even messing with that at all for spelling for that sound. When you do introduce U consonant E, the keyword is cube. We're going to very purposely make the sound U for that, even though again, that U and ooh, they're kind of skewed, aren't they? They're right there. Sometimes it sounds like we're hearing one. Sometimes it sounds like we're hearing another. But for U consonant E, you're going to say U. That response is U consonant E. Okay, notice that's yellow. That's a level 1 concept. And then U in an open syllable like unicorn will be added to your PG mapping. I know that's a lot to digest right now, and you don't have to digest all of it. We definitely wanted to make sure you were aware, because this is another that's one of the more complex vowel sounds because of that little shift that's occurring between these 3 graphemes and the sounds that they can make. So arguably the sound ooh, oops, this should be a capital O, not a lowercase o, because I meant ooh in moon, cube, tulip. They sound really basically the same. We know they're not all used for a default for spelling ooh. And again, I'm sorry, that should be capital double O. And there's the response there. So although you're teaching all 3 of these, here's your default for spelling. For PG mapping, then you also need to realize that PG mapping is for individual phonemes. So for every phoneme, you will use a space. So number 1, let's see. Would you unmute for a second? Deb, what sound is this? And number 1. Yeah, so what would your response be?
Double O.
Very nice, thank you. I'm going to pick on some other people. Gavin, number 2, and then Caroline, I'm going to have you do 3, and Ashley, I'm going to have you do 4. Okay, Gavin, 2. What's this sound?
Ooh.
Yeah, and what would the response be from your student?
Double O.
Thanks, Gavin. Okay, Caroline, number 3. What's this sound? Oops, you're not unmuted. There you go. So I'll have Caroline, and then Ashley's 4. Leanne, I'm gonna have you do 5. So be ready, please. Okay, Caroline, what's the sound? Yeah, it's unvoiced, isn't it? Like thumb. Good. What would the response be from your student?
PH.
Thank you. Ashley, what's this sound? Yeah, that's our voiced. What's the response?
TH.
Okay, Ashley, you get a bonus question. What is the key word for the voiced?
This father.
I'm going to tell Santa to send you an extra special gift. Yeah,
Thank
guys,
you
it's this father. Okay, Leanne, I think I said you get to do 5. Sarah, I'm going to have you do 6. Okay, Leanne, what sound is this?
E.
And what's the response going to be?
double E, final double E. No, I'm supposed to say initial. It is just double E, final
You
double
don't have to say that. You don't have to say all of, yeah, you said it correctly. It's double E, final double E. Good. I'm going to let Santa know how awesome you are too. Hey, also remember, when it's your new concept, you've got to make sure it's added. It has to be a part of your PG mapping when it's a default, doesn't it? And also be aware, if you've got something specific happening with review, make sure that's a part of your PG mapping and the words that you use for your spelling words and in your dictation. Thank you. Sarah, what's this sound?
Z, and it's Z, final double S, or final
Oh, not
S, not double
yeah,
S.
just an
Final
S. Right. Good job. Hey, Sarah, I noticed double Z is not a part of that. Did you notice that? Words
Yes,
like
because
jazz, buzz. How do you know
we
why?
haven't learned that yet.
Actually, it has been introduced, but that double Z does not happen often enough for us to have it as a default spelling. When we hear Z in the final position of a word, it's most commonly spelled with an S. Okay, guys? Pauline, what's this sound? Number 7. And then Angie, I'm gonna have you do 8. Okay, Pauline?
Shh.
Yeah, and what will your students say?
SH.
You got it. And then Angie, number 8. What's the sound?
I cannot tell what that is. Is that an I? I'm assuming it's an I.
Well, look at your answer, and that will give you what's the kid gonna write? So
Eh?
what is
No, I'm sorry. I as in
right?
I as in fly.
Exactly. Yep. So that's how you knew that was an I and not an L. Okay. So I is the sound. And then what's our response for I? What would the kids say and also write?
I final Y.
Yep, not the I. Yep, the sound is I. And after you've taught fly, this is
Oh.
the only response. Final Y. Okay. Now, what if I'm not
Final Y.
certain?
Mhm.
Yep. Look at that PG mapping, okay, guys? Look at this, and then you will know. I'm sorry, I'm going a teeny bit longer, but I'm almost finished here. So let's look at I. Can you guys see this master digital concepts? Thanks for nodding your head. So look, here's I, guys. The first thing you teach, see how it's green, is Y, which is an open syllable. It is a default spelling, final Y like fly. So look, this is what the kid writes, final Y. This is what the kid says, final Y. And what was the sound? Over here, column A, sound was I. Make sure you're using this. It is 100% laid out for you. So as long as you understand it, you're not going to do this incorrectly. Okay. I by itself is not going to be introduced until we do tiger. Then that I as an open syllable will come in the medial position. Okay. I think I'm about finished, ladies. Let me move through here. Oh, yeah. That's it. So go team. Woohoo! Double E.
Go to, okay, raise your hand if you know what that is a reference to. Any, are you old enough? Gavin,
Yeah.
Ashley, do you know what this is?
Gavin doesn't know.
Oh,
He's so young.
Okay.
I
Abby
watch
does.
reruns, I
Jeanette
guess.
does.
Okay, you're missing out. You need to Google Saturday Night Live.
SNL, Saturday Night Live.
I don't know.
Colin
what's that?
Farrell or cheerleader or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
You know, I
Okay.
wanted to just point out something that we're kind of going to add next year that I think would be also really important for you guys to remember about the PG mapping chart and what it represents. It represents the spellings of content bases.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
If you think about the PG mapping chart being the default spellings of content bases, what are the types of words that are the most common in English? Content or function? That's a tricky question. Well, what do you mean by most common, right? Well, for each individual word, the function words are used most often in English, right? But there's only about 300 of them. We literally could list the content words in English, function, excuse me, the function words. We could list them out if we had to, pretty much. but they're used very frequently. But they also have really short spellings, right? And they also have spellings that are not, because we want to distinguish them from content words in writing, they're specifically not the same spellings as content words. Be as in will you be there is BE. That's one vowel letter spelling the sound E in a one syllable function word. That's why the single E from the time that we remember we taught he, we, be, me, she for reading, but not for spelling. Like, remember we talked about them as function words because we don't want a student spelling the word she, S-H-E-E, right? We want to reserve the double E spelling for content words. Okay, so that's another way to look at that PG mapping chart. It's really about content word spelling, which is also why we ask our students before they spell a word, is it simple or complex? Is it a function, content, or wonder word? Okay. So it's not that it's, okay, I'll just leave it at that. All right, cool. Thank you so much, Jen. That was extremely helpful. Now you guys know another vowel syllable type, right? Vowel team. Of course, all of that is scripted out for you. Jen just showed you how to do the first two. There's several, obviously there's more than just EE and OO, but that's a really great start and a great review of how you'll start incorporating that. And it opens up so many more words for you to be able to use with your student, right? So yay for that. All right, anything else? We are going to transition. We're going to go directly to Miss Kristen now. Kristen is going to talk to you about another syllable type for about half hour, 45 minutes-ish. And then we'll take a break before I do my part, okay? Sorry about that with the, hey, Jen, for some reason, the PowerPoint that you sent only had the double E stuff on it. It didn't have the OO stuff on it, but I fixed it. It's all good. I know. I don't know why. So I just put the OO stuff on there. And so everybody, the link that you have for that now should have all of it.
Great.
I don't know.
And Kara, I will go ahead and be the primary person typing up Kristen's evaluation. So I've got that open.
Awesome.